Giant companies like Disney don't actually care about things like diversity and inclusivity. They only care about one thing, and that's making as much money as possible. Just because one executive or one director behind a company like Marvel wants to change the way that people see the Marvel Cinematic Universe and their heroes doesn't mean the rest of them do. And for years now, people have been trying to point out that at the end of the day, companies only care about protecting their bottom line. Yet there are still people who think that companies want what's best for fans and consumers, which is complete and utter garbage. And now Marvel's executive vice president has admitted this, that lacking representation means they're leaving free money on the table. So we're going to start with a Bounding Into Comics article. Marvel Studios EVP Victoria Alonso claims you are leaving money on the table by not representing. So Marvel Studios EVP Victoria Alonso recently discussed the company's new focus on inclusion and diversity while promoting the upcoming animated series, What If? So this focus on inclusion and diversity at Marvel isn't brand new, but we've definitely seen an increase in it. They've definitely been pushing it a lot more. So it says Alonso appeared at the International Animation Film Festival to promote the show during a Women in Animation panel, where she revealed a new clip of Peggy Carter transforming into her super soldier form of Captain Britain. Not only did she promote the show, but she also discussed Marvel's focus on diversity and inclusion, and shockingly revealed Marvel's entire shift to diversity and representation is simply to make more money. Usually we see these vice presidents trying to make it sound like they genuinely care. Usually they're trying to make it sound like this is something we're really passionate about. But in this case, she didn't. She literally came out and admitted it's all to make money because that's all they really care about. So it says, as reported by Deadline, she claimed diversity, inclusion, and gender parity all go hand in hand with showing the world as it is. There's about 6,000 characters in the Marvel library that we have access to. So if this goes right, we will be telling these stories for many, 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 many generations to come. So she decided to point out that they've got 6,000 characters in the Marvel library that they can use. And yeah, that's true. So why do you need to take characters like Captain America, twist him to fit a narrative, and change him and add new diverse ones to the comics if you've got so many characters that you have in your existing library? Truly, genuinely, I don't understand. But it says, and the importance of laying the ground for what's to come is that in those stories, there's many different characters that you can actually voice, she said. Look, companies are supposed to make money, and I don't fault them for wanting to just make as much money as they can and protecting their bottom line. But when they're doing it by virtue signaling, when it's predicated on a lie, and that lie is they actually care about representation and these issues, it's essentially false advertising. That's the BS that needs to be consistently called out. I'm not calling out the fact that they want to make money, but what needs to be called out is the hypocrisy. Alonso would claim that she's asked, aren't you tired every time your movie becomes the #1 in the world? She went on to describe the question as odd before elaborating. The reason we have that success consistently is because our audience is global. Oh no, we've got to appeal to that global audience. We've heard that from a lot of companies. You cannot have a global audience and not somehow start to represent it. For us, it was really, really important to have that. She continued, for the longest time, we heard a woman-led film will never open. I say, please check Captain Marvel, that made a lot of money. Then they told us that Black Panther was never going to open and nobody wanted a completely black cast, and that made $1.3 billion. She goes on to say, we heard a woman-led film will never open. Heard from who? Heard from where? Does she present any names? Does she give any sort of evidence? No, of course not. There have been so many women-led films that have opened that have done amazing over the years. I don't know why she would say this. So you can look at it from a social point of view, the cultural point of view, but truthfully, this is a business. From a fiscal point of view, you are leaving money on the table by not representing. She decided to just come out and admit it. That diversity is just a tool to them, and there are so many people out there who actually think they really care care about things like diversity and inclusion. They don't. They are just a company who wants you to open your wallet for their crappy subscription service and the movies they make and some of the merchandise they sell. This is the truth behind it. They only care about making money. But it continues on to say she then provided some numbers about Marvel's audience. I think 51% of our audience is female, 28% of our audience is Hispanic. If we don't represent the people that watch what we make, eventually they'll go elsewhere because somebody else will figure it out. I think 51%, she says. I think 28% of our audience is Hispanic, she says. They've got no proof here whatsoever. I think that those numbers are bullshit, and it's certainly not true when it comes to comic books. You know what? I think that 30% of the people watching the MCU movies are female. If she can make up numbers too, so can I. Do I have any proof or statistics? Nope, and neither does she, meaning my numbers are just as valid as hers. I think that it's absolutely hilarious when people walk into interviews like this and don't have any proof, don't have any statistics, and say things like, I think 51% of our audience is female. So Alonso concluded, we can only tell stories if we succeed and actually have money to make them. So the idea being, if it makes money, why not make it? To me, it seemed like a very simple equation, but it took a lot of time and took a lot of talking. Now, I think that it's perfectly fine to create different movies with different types of characters that represent different types of people. I think that is 100% a-okay. But what isn't okay is when you're taking existing characters and twisting them to fit a narrative. Why don't you just go and create new, unique characters? Why don't you go back to the 6,000 characters in the Marvel library that you can draw from? Stop taking beloved existing characters and twisting them to be able to push specific marketing, to be able to push a specific narrative. It continues on with saying that while Alonso now claims Disney's entire strategy is based on pandering to their global audience, she previously detailed it was about the future generations. She also kind of mentioned that here, but clearly she doesn't know where she's going with this. At one point she says it's about future generations, at another point it's to make money. She's kind of telling the truth, kind of not telling the truth here. So it says in a Reddit AMA back in 2019, it says the best part of working for Marvel Studios is 100% all of it, but most importantly to be able to show new generations the characters that represent them in each and every way has given me great pride. As part of her appearance, she also discussed Women in Animation's goal of women being in 50% of the creative jobs in animation. Now, she explained that there is absolutely no doubt in my mind and in my heart that you can get there, but the we is the part that worries me. We have to do it together because you can have an isolated group of people that are pushing and shoving and making sure that this is their priority. And yes, they will make a change in the group of people, but you won't make a true measurable change unless we do it as a whole. I think that it's perfectly fine to say maybe there should be more women in animation. I think that that's fine, but the thing is that people should be hired based on their skills, based on their talent, based on their ability to do their job properly. And if there just isn't enough women right now that can do it, then the men should be hired over the women. I think that if a woman is just as eligible for the job as a man, then yes, she should have a fair shot at getting it too. But it says it's okay to have one point of view clearly, but what's important is that if your lead is a certain type, that doesn't mean that everyone around is the same. And of course, I'm sure that a lot of you remember who Victoria Alonso is and the things that she said in the past because while she claims that she wants parity, her previous comments about the X-Men makes me wonder if one's actually telling the truth because back in 2019, while promoting Captain Marvel, she claimed that the X-Men name was outdated. Oh no, because it's X-Men and not X-Men and women. It's offensive. It is too out of date. I think that it's absolutely absolutely ridiculous that you're going on about the name of the X-Men. Does it really matter if they're called the X-Men or the X-Men and women? It doesn't matter that much. At the end of the day, diversity is just a tool to these companies. It always has been and it always will be, because they only care about making money. And if putting a person of color or a Filipino in a movie is going to make you buy a ticket to see it, they're going to take the opportunity to make that money. They are shameless. They do not care about real diversity, real inclusion, and it's hilarious because they are admitting it here. Marvel Studios EVP has literally admitted it. But let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.